There are 24 unique ghosts in Phasmophobia, all with unique abilities and behavior. In this video, I'm going to go over the 5 easiest ghosts and how to identify them. After this video, it's going to be impossible for you to forget them. I wanted to break this video down a little bit because I feel like it's hard for newer players to start learning ghost abilities all at once. With all the different behaviors and abilities and unique interactions, there's probably over 100 different things to try and learn, and that can be overwhelming and hard to retain that information. These ghosts are going to be easy to figure out with or without evidence. I want to simplify this learning experience and break down a few ghosts to guarantee that any new player will walk away having learned 5 new ghosts. So let's jump right in. Hands down, the easiest ghost to rule out and test for is going to be the Wraith, and the Wraith's gimmick is that it will never step in a salt pile, and in most games you will be putting down salt just to get some easy photos, while also being able to test for UV, so it's almost inevitable that the Wraith will be the first ghost you rule out. I like to place salt where I know the ghost is going to be walking through, so in the doorway to the room, nearby hallways, even around furniture in the ghost room is a great way to ensure that your salt is optimized. Later into the match, double check the ghost room, and if it still hasn't walked through salt after that time, it could be a Wraith. Wraiths will also not disturb salt piles during hunts, so if you're 100% sure the ghost walked through a salt pile but it's still undisturbed, then you have yourself a Wraith. The next ghost is a little infamous, and it is the Deogen. And the Deogen could be a bit scary sometimes, but once you know what to expect, it's no big deal. The Deogen will be very fast during hunts, and will also be able to find all players on the map even if they're hiding. It's essentially a ghost heat-seeking missile, but don't worry yet. When the Deogen is close to a player during a hunt, it will rapidly slow down. The closer it gets to you, the slower it will get. And your walking speed will be even faster than the Deo when it's close to you. So just make sure you have a smudge on you, and don't back yourself up into a corner. And during the hunt, you don't necessarily have to constantly be looking at the Deogen, so just make sure you don't back yourself up into a corner and you'll be okay. This next one is going to sound crazy, but the Revenant can be pretty easy to identify. It has a huge trade-off. On one hand, it's easy to identify, but can be very dangerous. The Revenant will be very slow during a hunt if it does not detect a player, and if the Revenant ends up getting line of sight, or it detects any equipment that's on that the player is holding, it will instantly become very fast. And if you manage to break line of sight, usually you'll end up okay. Since the Revenant is so slow when it doesn't detect a player, it will be easy to identify and also easy to reposition yourself during a hunt, as long as you have a bit of cover. Next, we have the Poltergeist. And the Poltergeist is a ghost that often throws objects. It also has a small chance to do something called a Polty explosion, which is an ability where it can throw multiple objects at the same time. Now, sometimes ghosts can be very throwy, and so my rule of thumb is if you ever doubt it's a Polty, then it usually isn't one. And these are easy to test for, as you can not only hear its frequency of items it throws, but you also want to pay attention to the distance that it throws something. If you see something get thrown insanely far, it's probably a Polty. And while waiting for a hunt, I like to make a small trail of items, also a few small piles of things as well, and a Poltergeist will always throw an object every 0.5 seconds, given there's something to throw. So if there's a bunch of items around and it sounds like a tornado is coming down the hallway, then you probably have a Poltergeist. And this last one might be a bit of a stretch, but hear me out. The Obake actually isn't too hard when you really know what to look for. If you're playing with evidence, the Obake will have a chance to do a unique UV print. Usually you'll find the 6-finger handprint. UV is a forced evidence for the Obake, so you will always get UV for an Obake, even on Nightmare or Insanity. Now, if you're playing on 0 evidence, it could be a little more tricky, but you will be able to see a ghost shapeshift during a hunt where it will briefly change ghost models, and it can be very hard to see, especially if you're in the dark, and you also need a good amount of line of sight, but with a smudge in your hand, you'll probably be okay. My advice is to watch it and try and pay close attention to how it looks. In worst case scenario, you could even try setting up a few cameras and try watching it from the truck while someone hides inside, but this could be a little tricky and there's not really any guarantees. So, I hope you feel like you walked away learning something new. I feel like this smaller format will make it easier for new players to learn, and I also wanted to quickly say thank you for everyone supporting me lately. I just hit 1,000 subs, so thank you for giving a smaller channel a chance. And I'm also going to be busy this week with my family and also busy next week, so I will only be uploading once. But I hope you all enjoy your holidays, and I'll see you next week.